Hi, it's Winton Churchill with the Barefoot Consultants, and I'd like to welcome you to our Facebook Friday call where we talk about all things freelancing. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the mistakes people make, particularly baby boomers, as they approach this. And we'd like to welcome our people that are coming in live on the call right now. And we'd also like to welcome those of you that are listening to the playback. And all the information that we talk about in the playback is available in the chat underneath this if you're watching it on the replay. So you can get everything that we talked about as we went through this this process. And as you are coming on, if you want to just let me know where you're coming in from, that would be great. We got off to a little bit of a late start because of some technical problems. We had to do the go reboot everything deal as we got started, and so we're in good shape now. Everything seems to be working properly. The microphone seems to be working with no delay, so that's kind of what we were going for. And so when people first approach this idea of working online, particularly baby boomers, there's a lot of, sort of hesitation, resistance that I've seen over the years, and probably the 15 years that I've been helping people get online with this stuff. And the first thing is thinking they can't do it. There's this tendency among some baby boomers to feel like they were sort of at the tail end of the coming up to speed on computer and being able to do email and being able to do projects online and through their computer and use anything other than email and that sort of thing. And certainly there are some baby boomers that fit that profile. The other interesting part of that, though, is that on working online, they're looking, freelance buyers are looking for skills that you have. And that's a very important part of the whole equation there is what skills do you have? The systems have become much easier if you buy books on Amazon or use Google email or any of the applications that you run. I think you would have to agree that they're far easier today than they were 15 or 20 years ago. And so I'm just getting a message here saying somebody is trying to log on. And they're, let's see. Sandra, how you doing? There we go. Sandra, can you see my video okay? Just want to see if you're, if the video is coming out. Let's see here. I had a few. Okay, great. Okay. And so let's see. Let me just do one thing here, and we'll. There we go. Okay. All righty. And so this whole idea of thinking they can't do it is a tough one because we've worked with so many people that can do it that thought they couldn't. And what I hear a lot when people start working online is I was making this harder than it is. We have in the back of our mind this idea of getting a job, and getting a job is a big deal. For most of us, it meant working for a company 3, 4, 5 years or more, in some cases, a whole career. And that was big money. If you look at it over time, that's hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, depending upon your salary and that kind of thing over 35-year career. The nature of online freelancing is much shorter than that. And the jobs are kind of like taxi cabs in New York. They're coming along every few seconds, really. So there's a good opportunity to get on. If you get off, it's no big deal. You can get another one and get on. And this is one thing that lots of folks don't quite realize. But I wanted to show you a graph from a survey that a company does, a company by the name of Upwork, who is very much a player, the largest player in this, in fact. And this is a chart here that shows, first of all, you would read this, and as a baby boomer, you might be somewhat discouraged. Younger generations freelance more. Well, it's not really something to be discouraged about. I mean, it's just sort of natural. There are people in Generation Z that are between 18 and 22 years old now who were not alive before the internet, so they don't have that perspective. They grew up with, a smartphone in their hand and a computer at their fingertips and that sort of thing. But the important thing to realize is that when you read most of these surveys, baby boomers represent about 29, 30%. It varies depending on system to system and that kind of thing. And that's a lot of baby boomers. Baby boomers are about a third of the population. And so those numbers are kind of right about what you'd expect. And this represents millions of baby boomers that are working on these systems. So there's a lot of evidence in the real world to say that many baby boomers can do what's on these systems. Part of this is fueled by the idea that people, just they don't have the tech savvy to do stuff. And what's happened now is lots and lots of jobs, 30, 35, 40% of the jobs on all these job and project networks, what we would call freelancing networks, are soft skill jobs. It's not programming. It's not designing a website. It's doing things like proofreading, making a PowerPoint presentation, writing an article, editing an article. And for many of us that worked in a career in an industry or a series of jobs over time, we all have that expertise of being able to do certain things. For example, I never had the title proofreader, but it seems like there wasn't a week that went by that somebody didn't ask me, could you take a look at this? Could you read this over before I send it to the boss? That kind of thing. And so we were all doing that kind of work, what used to be referred to as knowledge work, working in an office. It might be communicating with clients. It might be working with suppliers. It might be working in human resources. But in all those jobs and career positions, as a baby boomer, you gain skills. So something very important to realize that there's a lot of evidence out there that you can do this. And there's also a kind of our own insecurities at this time that we're making the transition from being in a career going to a retirement career enhances the anxiety. And certainly now, as we're living through the pandemic, and as today we all awoke to the news that the president and the first lady have coronavirus, it's just the whole planet seems like it can change on the blink of an eye, and this is pretty much been that way since about 2008, I would say. I mean, and if you look back over history, there's certainly events like 9/11 and, gas crisis and all kinds of other things along the way that have created similar shifts in what we're doing. But this is an opportunity like no other for baby boomers, because skills are one thing, and certainly baby boomers have that. but they also have what we call domains of knowledge. They have deep knowledge about the field or industry or activity that they were involved in, and making, tens of thousands of decisions every single day, or throughout your career, if you add them up, gives you a certain expertise in solving problems, dealing with situations, that kind of thing. And that is one of the most valuable things for a freelance buyer to have when they bring a freelancer into a project. They want that person that can see the big picture. And so the next thing I want to talk about is this issue with baby boomers of not being able to bring their thinking around to what are my skills versus my occupation. Too many people think about their occupation, and you are not your occupation. That's a very that's a big thing. If you think about your occupation, it's huge, but it is comprised of lots of little skills, and it's those skills that are going to be the things that lead you to working online. And I see Doug Tiffany has just checked in from behind the coconut curtain. Welcome, Doug. Good to see you there. And today we're talking about three areas where baby boomers kind of stumble as they get started working online, and in the areas where they actually get prevented from working online by their own psychology. We used to talk in sports about the other team psychs themselves out, and that's kind of what goes on here. And so this occupation, versus skills and knowledge is something really important to understand. I remember talking to a dentist, and the dentist was considering moving to Costa Rica, and wanted to know what he could possibly do online. In fact, he was kind of negative about it. He said, there's nothing I can do online. I spent the last 35 years working in people's mouths, and you really can't do that. And the point was, number one, he knew a fair amount about health, about first aid, about recovery. He would be able, over the phone, to give somebody general advice about dental procedures they were considering and that kind of thing. He wouldn't obviously be a dentist, but he would be somebody that could break off different aspects of his considerable knowledge. And I mean, as a baby boomer, if you've got 30 or 40 years working in a field, you have deep, deep knowledge. And that is, in many cases, for many projects, what buyers are looking for. And, it's funny. They don't want to know how to make buggy whips. It's not like there may be certain things you know how to do that are no longer in demand. But what you do know how to do is how to solve problems. And that's what every freelance assignment is every freelance assignment, to some degree, is a problem that somebody has, and they don't quite have the human resources within their operating sphere to handle all of that. So that's something that you want to consider as you do this, is that as a freelancer, kind of equals problem solver. And that's the sort of the guiding light, that if you could bring all your skills and knowledge together and help somebody, how would that be? You don't have to have the person you're working with sitting in a dental chair in front of you. There's stuff that you can look at around the world. You can correspond with emails about the cost of different dental treatments. I know one of the things that's very popular right now is implants and that kind of thing. And so, that's the topic that's fairly frequently you'll see on some of these networks, or people are considering dental procedures, and they want to know what the relative cost is of different things, whether this is right for them, given their age, given their other factors that may enter into it. And so that's how you bring your skill set into that. And then the third thing that I want to talk about is this concept of this is all step by step. What I see happens sometimes is baby boomers start looking at freelancing, and they see that the world is vast. You know, most baby boomers that I talk to go from, yeah, freelancing is a thing that kind of flops around out there. And I think there's this guy down the street that does some freelancing of some kind. I don't know what he does, that kind of thing. Well, it turns out that about 30% of all American workers are doing freelancing of one kind or another. And we have seen an explosion in that kind of freelancing now, particularly with, food delivery service, grocery delivery service, because that's all part of this gig economy that I've written this book and been on lots of podcasts and pretty excited about the sales activity going along with that. So it's been very good, but most baby boomers haven't got a clue. They don't know what this world looks like. They don't know that 30% of the people in the workforce out there that are 50 and above are doing jobs that are in the gig economy. They might have a primary job and then they're doing a secondary job. And certainly since the lockdown started, I've had lots of conversations with people who have, said their world is upended. They realize they need a plan B. They've always kind of romanticized, thought about working freelance, that kind of thing. But now it's time to take the step. And that's one of the things that most people don't understand. And it really holds them back. It really gets people sort of off to the sidelines early on, and it's a shame because so much of the resource that freelance buyers want to buy is that knowledge, that seasoning. That's the thing that is hardest to communicate in the virtual world. If we were all doing a project of one kind or another, we would much rather do it with a seasoned team rather than a bunch of people that really didn't know much about the subject or the industry we were in or the subject matter. And which brings up another point is it really is important not to just look at your career experience as the experience that will guide you in all of this, but look at your volunteer experience, your hobbies, your interest outside of work. All these represent areas where you can bring that same problem-solving expertise, whether it's proofreading or writing or doing customer support or whatever that might be, to the equation and help a freelance buyer accomplish what they want to do. And obviously a freelance buyer, this is something to think a little bit about. A freelance buyer is going to spend some money to hire a freelancer. And what they've determined is that, number one, they don't have somebody typically on their staff or in their immediate reach that can help them with this. And so they're out looking on a freelance network to find that person. An important thing to realize is that they're looking for that person, not typically just to do that one assignment, but they're looking for that person that can do that assignment and similar kinds of assignments for them on an ongoing basis. There's a lot of pressure right now among businesses, especially as they reopen and build up their customer traffic and all that kind of thing, to find flexible employees or flexible freelancers that can work on a schedule that helps the business benefit from their expertise when they need it. And then when the business turns to other parts of the business activity in their month, they're not on the payroll. So this is the idea of how all this fits together. So something to think about in terms of not letting obstacles stop you in terms of making this progress. So I want to remind those folks, we're ticking up here in terms of people on the call. So thank you for coming on the call. If you've just arrived or arrived after we started a little bit, if you just let me know where you're calling in from. I always like to see that, like to see where folks are from. Always a pleasure. Yeah, we're all looking forward to coming out of the pandemic, and some of the news today certainly is jarring, but we've had lots of jarring along the way. So, it just, to me, it points out to the uncertainty of this. Let's see. Pam, let me see if I can get that for you. David Omo in Dallas. I'm in Grand Prairie. I was on a trip to Los Angeles when the lockdown happened, and from my home in Mexico, and have been here ever since. So good to see you, a fellow Texan. Very good. So one of the things that is helpful is listening to examples of occupations that people engage in, and how you would break those down into individual activities that you might do online. And so thank you, David. And so if you could put in the chat window an occupation, job title, whatever it might be, that you would like to see, we could do it right here live, kind of broken down into the skill sets that are in demand online. We find that this is a very helpful thing to do. We call these focus conversations, and we do them a lot at our live events. Now we do them in our virtual events. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes, but I'm happy to do a shortened version of it for you here. And let's see, Pam, I'm just sending you a new email. We have Pam Flory, one of our coaches, is going to be joining us here. Let me just get her the correct link to join, and we will be off to the races here. So with Pam, we'll bring her on in just a few minutes as soon as she gets hooked up and going in there. So we'll take a look there. Let me get over to the StreamYard. StreamYard's a very wonderful system, but it's they're innovating a lot, and so that creates some challenges. And I think it's Sheila has the question, an application support analyst. So would that be like a software application support analyst? Typically, is that like Oracle or SAP or one of those kind of things? Maybe if you just give me an idea of what that is, because my background is mostly working for hardware then software companies. So okay, great. So somebody that is an analyst is usually pretty good at project management. In fact, we have a number of analysts among our coaches who come out of that field, and they have varying levels of expertise. And I see David, Windows support. So generally in the area of technology. So we'll take Sheila's first, and David, then we'll go to yours. So in the application support analyst area, usually you have good skills at project management. Project management is very much in demand because companies have projects spread out around the world, and they want people to run those projects. And having somebody that has the skill to run those projects is wonderful. The other thing that you probably know how to do is you probably know how to do PowerPoint, and you probably know how to do Microsoft Excel, because a lot of support analyst work involves doing spreadsheets and looking at rows and columns of all kinds of different information and that sort of thing. So yes, that is doing spreadsheets would be one area. So as you begin, and I know that your skills transfer directly if you just cut and paste application support analyst into a system like Upwork or guru.com or freelancer.com, you would see jobs that specifically have that title in them. The bigger opportunity is jobs that go beyond exactly that capability, and show you how would show tap into your other skills, thinking about PowerPoint and Excel and project management skills. And in project management, you might be familiar with doing scrums, or you might be skilled in an analytical methodology, if there's a specific analytical methodology that you're good at. All of these things are projects. And so that's all well good enough. And when somebody comes to freelancing, what they want to do is, okay, I want to run into the freelance world and do that job. And that's not going to happen. The freelance buyers are going to give you a little tiny job. I mean, a 1 hour, 2 hour job. It's almost like doing a test as part of an interview process that you might be doing to see if you can, how much do you know? And they will give you that little test, and then they might give the exact same test to 5 other people at the same time, and then they will see who performs on that little test. It might be create a 10-slide PowerPoint presentation about a technical subject that would be related to your application. That would be a great example. So that would be the kind of thing you would do. In these systems, they have this important concept called recommendations. Every time you get out of an Uber, it says how many stars. Every time you get something delivered, how many stars. Well, these online networks work the same way. And we find that you have to get between 6 and 12 small jobs, could be 1 hour jobs, under your belt before your recommendation score is sufficient to start tapping into the larger jobs. The hardest job you get is that first job as a freelancer. But once sophisticated freelance buyers see that you've done a half dozen to a dozen jobs, doesn't matter how simple they were, but you've been able to satisfy clients, that's when you start having the opportunity to bid on larger jobs and larger stuff. Okay, and then so this kind of Sheila's got a comment here, and David has a comment as well. So Sheila is working at a problem resolution desk, and I'm imagining that David is also, if he's doing Windows stuff, that he's got the same kind of thing going on. And so support is a massive area of growth online right now, because so many organizations are working virtually is one reason. More importantly, they are having to change the nature of their business, how they deliver things to their clients, how they ship raw materials to manufacturing plants, how they do training within their organization, all these different things that both of you have probably been participating in and doing for quite some number of years. And David is saying that, support for many applications in Windows and Mac environment, and some networking. So this is what's going on. You can imagine all the network issues around people moving from an office where they've worked for 10 or 20 years. Now everybody that was in that office is working for home, or particularly baby boomers. So help desk stuff quite a bit. And in fact, I'm going to bring on a guest here, Coach Pam Flory. And let me press the button here, Pam, and see if we've got you going there. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hi.
All right, very good. I finally got hooked up after a technical uh, glitch there. Can you Pam has come up through the corporate ranks and worked on building call centers, doing customer support activities, training people in the customer support area. So Pam has a lot of great experience in doing just that kind of thing. And so Pam, we were talking with two of our people on the call here about jobs that people could do online as a freelancer that sort of tap into talents that somebody might have from people that are in kind of a problem resolution desk kind of situation.
Well, the most obvious one is to be a help desk customer service or technical support person. I mean, there are hundreds of those jobs out there if that is something that you want to do. If you want to vary from that because you've done that for a little while, there's tons of documentation for procedures and for how to use equipment, how to use software that you can help establish training for companies that bought a new package and they now have to get all of their people trained. You'd be perfect for that because you understand all the issues that we users are going to have because you've seen them all in your experience. So you could do writing, you could do training, maybe, depends on your background. You could do uh, desktop support, you could do software support, and you may want to mix that up and do your support work for half time and then vary your product by doing other jobs with the rest of your time. You don't have to do this 40 hours. Some of the clients want you 40 hours, but some are happy to take you for whatever they can get, 20 hours or 25 hours, something like that. And then you can have time to do other projects.
Yeah, great point. We're going through a time unlike any of us have been alive. Where everything is changing at once. The health procedures, how companies and nonprofits and government agencies serve their organizations, and you just have to walk into a restaurant these days to notice how different everything is, or go stand in a line at a government agency or that kind of thing with social distancing and all that kind of stuff. The other thing is lots of people that are now working remotely are using new applications. So there's a lot of demand for freelancers to help companies transition to new applications. In many cases, applications where you kind of had to be in the office building in order to use the application. Now they're trying to figure out how to push it out. And as both of you probably know, the software has been there to help that for a decade or two. We've had networking and client server applications and all that kind of stuff, but companies that were contained in a building or a number of buildings around the world tended not to want to do that. Some companies, they wanted to keep everything under one hood, if you will, and they wanted their employees to come in the office and do that. And now they are, not by choice, but being forced to make that application, whatever it might be, or something that replaces that application, available to all their employees in a work at home environment. So, millions of employees are making this transition right now, and companies are figuring out how do we support people as they make this transition. And that's one of the big areas of freelance hiring, as as we look through this, the different opportunities that are going on. And yeah, good answer. Pam, I know that you work with a lot of uh, baby boomers that are, first time moving into this. And one of the things that baby boomers, as they come into this, say is, gosh, I just want to get a job and start working and do a few things. And that's one level. Once people kind of get in the pool and realize the water's okay and they're comfortable swimming around, then some of the things that go into building their career as a freelancer, I'd like you to talk a little bit about them, that really moves them from getting started and sort of past the getting started phase up to that phase of excellence. What separates the freelancers that are excellent from the freelancers that are just out there and making a little money but not really hitting the potential that they might enjoy a little bit more?
Well, I think there are a number of steps that you can do to provide excellent service. The number one in all cases is communication.
Mm-hmm.
If you get your first job that's 3 months long, you don't get the job and then 3 months later turn it in. You need to reassure the client that you are making progress on it, you don't have any questions, or if you do have questions, give them an opportunity to support you. So you need to be in communication with them consistently. It just gives them much more feelings of relief that, oh, you know, Winton's got it under control. He's doing it well. It's not going to be 2 days before it's due and he's going to come back to me and say, well, I ran into this problem and so it's not going to happen. No, be in communication. Tell them the progress you are making. And if you have any questions, make sure you reach out to them.
Yes, that's great. In the interviews that I do with freelance buyers, they say that this is always an issue with younger freelancers, is they just don't have the seasoning and understand how their piece of the deal fits into the overall project. And that's freelance buyers really like it when you have that big picture perspective.
The other thing that you should do, and this protects you as well as them, it's tell them when you will respond to a question they have. Don't leave it open 24 hours a day, because you need to set boundaries so that you know that you're going to check your emails at a certain time and you will respond. But don't let them expect for you to respond to them at 11 p.m. if you're working during the day. So set those boundaries. People are very flexible about working with you if they know what the rules are.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example, one time I was working on a client where we had implemented a new software and there were a lot of issues. So I agreed to have my phone on 24 hours a day, and I was living in a hotel. They would call me at 1 o'clock in the morning over piddly things that I could have answered at 8 o'clock. So I wanted to say, don't call if there's no blood involved. But so just set your boundaries. It works well.
Yeah.
And
And
go
I
ahead.
would say, fortunately, a lot of freelance buyers have adjusted to this as well. That's what they really like, is they like to know that they can, every day at about some time between 3 to 5, if they need to get in touch with that freelancer is available to them. It helps them kind of consolidate all their questions rather than every time a problem pops up saying, oh, I better call Pam or whatever, and so
Right.
you create a tempo in a project. And obviously this is easier when you're all in the same building, in the same office, and it's much harder when you're all spread around the world. But baby boomers in particular, and any 50 plus really, they've worked in offices and they know what that tempo is all about. So they kind of have a sense of it and are able to work virtually once they catch the tempo much better than people that might be living in the 24/7 kind of world.
Right. On the other hand, you as a provider don't communicate excessively. They don't care if you wrote 3 new paragraphs today. Give them a regular report and update on an agreed upon time between, I'd say, I'll email you twice a week, and try and put all the information into that one email, because if you ask one little question that's really not all that important, and then the next 2 hours later you ask another one, you drive them crazy. So try and batch all your questions. The other thing is, don't promise what you can't deliver. People, you are fitting into a big picture. So don't say that you can do something if you know you cannot. You just have to be consistent. Say, here's what I can do for you. Here's what we agreed upon. And tell them what kind of a time frame you'll have it done in. That should be part of the very first discussion and part of your proposal. So those are my big comments. Communicate regularly, but don't over communicate. Be honest about what you can and cannot do, and set some boundaries.
Very good. Words of wisdom. Pam is, as I mentioned at the beginning, is one of our Barefoot Consultants coaches, and she's graciously offered to do some focus sessions. If you would like to have that 20 to 30-minute call and understand what kind of things that you can do to embark on this into this world of freelancing, and understand really what kind of skills you have, domains of knowledge that we refer to, industry experience, and how you can take those into the online networks. In fact, I know that oftentimes when Pam's talking with a client in these focus sessions, she actually goes on to some of the systems and shows them some of the kinds of work that they're able to do. So I'm going to post Pam's calendar link. Oh, that's not the right link. Hold on a second. We'll have to dig it up here another way. And we will.
And did I put it in the chat if you want to pull it from there?
Okay, one second here. There we go. And you can use that link to get a hold of Pam's schedule and just go in there and schedule a time if you'd like, and get that put together. So any other questions floating around on Friday? We're certainly getting inundated with election stuff these days, and the news cycle is crazy, and it's so welcome to at least my job is to help people figure out how to be freelancers, and Pam's job is the same. And we've been very busy through this this period of time, and it kind of acts as a stabilizer as we feel like we're getting jostled one way or the other. And this truly is a great time to when we are locked down, when we're not, going to the grocery store maybe as much, and not certainly going out to restaurants or sporting events like we quite were, that kind of thing, to take the time to focus on something that will help as you come out of this lockdown. A lot of the language I've heard from people is, I want a plan B. I still got my job. There's nothing threatening there, but this has been a wake-up call that I want a plan B. I don't want my job to be the only thing, because we all know people who, if we would have talked to them 9 months ago and said, how's it going? They'd say, man, it's great. and right now not so much. So just lots of changes in store in a positive direction. I mean, the great news is that the economy has been recovering very well. You know, in the past, when we had economic slowdowns, it was because of problems within the economy. And before this started, the economy was actually doing great. And as we go through, I think they just announced some job results yesterday. The unemployment figures and all that kind of thing are all moving in the right direction, speaking to the opportunity. But everybody's going to have to work in a different way. They're going to have to train a lot of people how to do things in a different way. They're going to have to train their clients. They're going to have to train their employees. They're going to have to train management. You know, it's funny. Working in a company, one tends to think of, well, management is all knowing, and this thing moved in so fast, and there have been so many changes along the way, and there's all kinds of regulatory compliance that people are going to have to pay attention to as they move through this. So encourage you to take advantage of scheduling some time with Pam and having a conversation with her, and figuring out how your skills might be a good fit. She can go into more detail than really we can here. We realize that there's a privacy element to what people want to say about what they do and that sort of thing. And when you're sort of in the one-on-one situation, it's a lot easier to talk about that. And Pam has a lot of great questions that are going to help you remember things that you don't remember now, and experiences maybe from 10 years, 20 years ago, where you may have for 10 years worked for a company that has nothing to do with the kind of work you have do now, but it does represent a skill set, and it does represent a knowledge base. And a lot of times we can bring those past experiences into current day freelancing. So that's very good. And I see, let's see, Greg Chan says, I really need to do this. So make sure you get a hold of Pam's link here. Let me put it in again, and schedule a call. And you know, everybody that I touch or hear from on our Tuesday night calls or that kind of thing that has been through that kind of call really has their eyes open, and they see a much clearer path to doing this than, you know, it might look kind of murky right now from the outside of it. So happy to take any questions, answer any thing you might have, and we'll give you just a minute to drop something in the chat window if you have a question or comment. I had another slide here. Let me see if I can call that up. I'm not seeing it there. Alrighty. And so with that, I think we'll sign off, and we'll see you next Friday, hopefully without all the gremlins that we had today in the system. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, Pam, and thanks for all our participants. Be sure and like the presentation today if you got anything out of it, and we look forward to seeing you again next week, or if you're a member of our programs, on our Tuesday night call. Take care. Adios.
Bye, everyone.